Hi.
Hi, how are you? I would say good morning, but I forgot you're in London, so it's afternoon.
Yeah, it's very much afternoon. It's quite late in the afternoon on a Friday.
Yes. Well, so great for us to get together. How about we start with you telling everybody who you are?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Sapana Agrawal. I live in London, and I'm the CEO of a company called Smart Egg. And so our sort of mission is around trying to get women to proactively manage their fertility. Instead of fertility being something that happens to you or is a lottery, it's about how can you empower women to feel as in control of their fertility as they can do.
Yeah,
There's
that's
obviously
great.
limitations, but we think knowledge is power in this space.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. In fact, when I discovered you, I was like, I've got to know who is behind this amazing website. I think you're just fantastic. So, talk a little bit about where you are in your journey. Have you egg froze or are you planning to?
So I haven't yet. So I've been to see some clinics, I've had my tests, and I think I've picked a clinic, and I'm probably going to have my eggs frozen later in the year. But yeah, very excited to do so.
And you said part of the motivation that you were originally starting the site for Smart Egg was because of conversations that were happening between you and your girlfriends.
Yeah.
What are some of those conversations all about?
So I'm in my 30s, and um, most of my friends are too. And I noticed like sort of the the dynamics of our conversations in terms of life planning, about relationships, about jobs, were all kind of changing, and a lot of them centered around fertility, and they were changing in a different way to our guy friends. And it just made me realize that this is something that women feel really acutely in their 30s. They're very conscious of their fertility, about either, the potential fertility decline, or on the other hand, very conscious about the fact that they want a child and they need to change things to make sure that happens. Um, and I realized that everyone was sort of having these conversations in a vacuum of information. So it wasn't like any one of us knew very much and could actually offer each other some useful information. It was all stuff that we just read on the internet or we'd read in the newspaper. It wasn't necessarily like that well informed. And second, like people didn't know who to turn to get that good advice. And it was off the back of those conversations that I realized that there was a real gap. There was a real gap to help women that want a baby one day or might want a baby one day, but not right now. And I felt like there was lots of people talking to you about how to avoid pregnancy or how to get pregnant or to help you if unfortunately you were suffering with any infertility issues. But there wasn't people to help this group of
In
women.
between spot,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Where it's
exactly.
not like you're trying to get pregnant right now, but you would like the options to have a child or children someday in the future. I
Yeah,
I
completely.
felt the same way. I mean, I really looked at egg freezing as a potential more choices,
Yeah,
future choices for yourself and giving yourself options. But you're right, there was this gap. It's like this space online that just doesn't speak to our generation or our spot where we're at. I'm 30 in my 30s as well, so this is a really hard area to be in because you're thinking about your next steps, but you don't quite know how to get there.
completely. And I think that's why, like your blog, it's you know really focused on this demographic. So if a woman's going through egg freezing for in anticipation of wanting baby one day and not right now, what's amazing about your blog is that there's targeted information for her instead of having like be injecting yourself and then having to read like IVF blogs, which brilliant that the IVF blogs exist and those women are helping one another. That's amazing. But it's hard if you're not in that position and you're just getting your eggs frozen and you don't know whether you're going to use it or not. You don't want to get the information about like doing your shots or something from those women. You want to get it from women that are going through what you're going through.
Right. It's really a two-step process, and
Yeah,
we're only doing part one. We're
yeah,
not going to the baby part. So
totally.
while the IVF portion is very much the same, it is a different mindset and a different place emotionally where you're at. At least I feel that way. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, completely. So I obviously haven't had my eggs frozen, but I've interviewed lots of women that have, and definitely that's the sense that I get from them. And actually, that's sort of what I've heard from them is that it's even more isolating. So you already feel quite strange going through the process. You often feel quite alone because none of your friends have had it done, or some of your friends might not even be that support.
Yeah, I think we're early adopters. There's definitely a generation of adopters that did it before us, before vitrification came out and some of these new advances within egg freezing that makes it more viable. But it's still an up and coming procedure for most.
Yeah. Yeah, and to that point, like, given, I think, yeah, we're definitely at the early stage of this, and
Just
small.
starting the conversation, really.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's important though to have a balanced conversation.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what we're trying to do, is sort of say egg freezing is brilliant for some people, and for some people it's not the right thing for them. But like, how can we help people have like an informed, balanced conversation about that?
So you can make the choice whether it's right for you or not. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what we're trying to focus on. So how can you educate people about their fertility, then help them through perhaps understanding their own fertility through a fertility test? And then the third thing, how can you help coach people? So we're trying to train up fertility coaches to help people have that informed decision, conversation to make a decision. So whether it's that they're going to freeze their eggs, or they're not going to take any action, or that they are going to make some lifestyle changes to be in the best place for 2 years' time to have when they want to have a baby, whatever they want. But how can they make a decision around action or no action in an informed way?
Great, that's really great.
So why don't I share some of the stories from that I've been talking to? So been really privileged, I'm sure, as you, by having these conversations, to really like hear what women feel about their fertility journeys, going through egg freezing, going through fertility testing, and it's just amazing to hear people's stories. And I think that some of the exciting common threads have been that no one I've heard that's had their fertility tested or has had their eggs frozen have regretted it, and that's been very powerful for me. I don't know whether I'm like self-selected people, but I found that really warming. I've spoken to a lot of people that have had their IVF, and almost all of them said that they wish they'd been in a position to either get their eggs frozen, or they'd started thinking about fertility earlier, or had their fertility tested earlier. And I think that sort of these intergenerational conversations would be really powerful, or breaking the taboos around sharing around all sorts of aspects of fertility, whether it's early menopause or miscarriage or things that, or going through IVF. Obviously, they're very sensitive people, but if we had a more open conversation, I think that we have more realistic expectations about our own fertility, and then be more energized to take action.
So when you're having these conversations with these women, are they being open and talking about exactly how they're feeling and the struggles that they're going through, or is it still kind of a hush-hush behind closed doors discussion?
I think that in general it's probably quite it's mixed. So on the egg freezing side, some women are really open, and some don't want people to know because they think that it's a sign of giving up on finding a partner, or that there's some taboo around it. So they'd rather people didn't know they'd had their eggs frozen. And on the side of like IVF, or people undergoing sort of fertility issues, sometimes they don't want to share their story because they think that somehow they've failed, or that it's too painful to share, because they want to deal with their loss, for example, by themselves. And I suppose I can respect all of that. I suppose the downside of it for women in general and men is that you don't really get a full understanding of some of the challenges that people go through to have a baby. And I think that underlying most people's belief is that if you want a baby, you can have a baby.
Right. We see all these celebrities doing it, so we think we're exactly just like them. So And then what are the age ranges of most of the girlfriend group that you're in the mix with that are having these conversations?
So in terms of the women that we've been interviewing, I'd say people are generally between 28 and 40. And actually the big surprising thing for me was when I started, I hadn't really thought that I would be able to chat to or help people, say, over 35 or 36, because I was like, those women that given that the call to action is quite strong after 35 because of fertility decline, I thought that they would be like further down in the process. But actually what I found was those women want to talk to people as well, because there's, as we were saying before, if you want to get your eggs frozen, it's irrelevant how old you are. There's nowhere to go to get great information about this. And so that's why there's an imperative for blogs like yours or, fertility coaches, hopefully through Smart Egg, to be helping people figure out this stuff and figure out whether it's right for them and where to go and what the process looks like.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there just isn't enough information in the mix to accurately address all those age concerns and those points in your life.
Completely.
Yeah.
It's like, so that's why we've introduced this element of fertility coaching, because there's this sense that you can go to a therapist to talk about certain things. You can go to a dietitian to talk about other things. You've got a personal trainer. But this thing that's the most precious thing to a lot of people, so having a family to a lot of women and men, is really central to their life plans. But we just rely on our families and our friends to have these conversations. And obviously that's a brilliant place to go. But our friends and family have their own agendas and their own experiences and
they may not relate to us.
Yeah, exactly. So I think having someone else that you can go to that's informed about the facts and figures to have these balanced conversations and to help you make your own, the trade-offs between, career, family, money, whatever those are, is really, really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And so tell me, in the blog, where have you found that people have been most searching for information? Like,
a lot of them are watching the stories and the experiences of other people that have gone through it. So that's where a lot of the demand or generated interest is really going. I think also too, the blogs act as a resource from a written standpoint, but videos are really impactful and people love to watch those and hear firsthand and feel like they get to know you. But just the awareness that fertility takes a sharp decline at 35 and is like almost impossible, or it's a miracle if it happens after 40, is kind of an eye-opening and awakening process for most. I think that because we have so many examples of people just showing up on the celebrities showing up on People magazine, or the Hollywood scene of watching women over 40 be pregnant, that we think we can do it too, and oftentimes we don't go see our fertility specialist until it really is a little too late, or we're not settling down and finding that parenting partner that we want to make a child with until later in life, and then those heartbreaking stories seem to come out more and more. I always want to encourage that if I ever have a daughter, or if there's women out there that have daughters, for a college graduation present, like, give your daughter egg freezing. It just opens up so many doors and allows you to prioritize the key things that are in your life, and you can make better decisions on who you date, make better decisions on how you spend your time, and be able to go after your career full force without feeling like any piece of that is possibly not having it all.
Yeah, I think that the thing that resonate with a lot of what you just said resonates, but especially the thing about just not knowing. And I think that actually more important than the graduation gift of the egg freezing is like give people the gift of like the knowledge. So I couldn't believe that my family are all doctors. We've talked about, having children throughout my life. I've got an older sister, and it's so strange. I really, till I started working on this, didn't know the ins and outs of fertility decline. And, we are well educated, we read a lot of magazines, newspapers. Really interested in science, and I'd never really engaged with fertility decline. And unless we're having this conversation, and it needs to start early at schools and then be throughout our 20s and 30s as well. Like, how are people supposed to know? And then, as you said, people get sort of mixed messages from their friends, from the miracle,
one-off situation, or that girlfriend that just turned 46 and had a baby that could have been a donor egg. Like, no one talks about those things. You're so right. I was blessed that I work in the fertility field and/or women's health. That was the source of my knowledge. So for the past decade, literally, I've been thinking about and mulling over the idea and saw the benefits because I came from a well-educated decision or knowledge background, where I was helping my girlfriends, but I really felt like, it's time to bring this to the masses. It's time to put this online so anyone can find it, because there really is a gaping hole here. And so I'm so glad that you're around, because you're like the UK version and I could be the state version, but yet we can mix and combine our networks for a really full spectrum fertility advice and educational resource.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. Well, you've just been such a pleasure to talk with. I'm so thankful we met and befriended each other. Good luck with your upcoming egg freezing cycle. If you need any, one-on-one talks or late night chats, you can always give me a ring.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank you so much. The blog looks great, and good luck with it.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a good afternoon. Happy Friday.
Yeah. Have a lovely morning. Take care. Bye.
See ya.